On today's Hot Sheet, I'm discussing ATTOM's Q3 home affordability report, along with Redfin CEO's comments on the housing market, plus updates on jobless claims and mortgage demand. Today is Thursday, September 28th, 2023. I am Byron Lazine, and the Hot Sheet starts now. For those joining me here on the live stream, let me know in the live chat which market you're tuning in from today. I'm here in my Connecticut studio. Okay. If you want the most out of the BAM content, please join us in BAM X. We've got a link down below where you can get 10% by using code HOT. It's how you get the most out of everything that we do at BAM. Let's get right into the reality of what's going on. If we put our head in the sand and ignore what our market looks like, we're not going to be able to inform those who need the information the most. ATTOM just released their home affordability Q3 report, and there are some tough realities to swallow in it. Home affordability gets even tougher across the U.S. during Q3 as home prices and mortgage rates rise further. Did you see the rate yesterday? It has gone up significantly in a short period of time. Right now, the typical average wage percent of the wage nationwide is now up to 35%. This is very high. The latest number, being 35%, is considered unaffordable by common lending standards. Okay, so the report shows that affordability has worsened and that the typical portion of average wages nationwide required for home ownership is up to 35%. The latest number is considered unaffordable by common lending standards, which call for a 28% debt to income ratio. Those who have worked with buyers and helped assist buyers know exactly what that is. Our mortgage professionals certainly know what that means. It marks the highest level since 2007, and it stands well above the 21% figure from early in 2021, right before the home mortgage rates began shooting up from historic lows. Okay, so this environment creates a real affordability issue in almost everywhere in the country. Okay, if we go to the ATTOM heat map here, anything under 100 is less affordable than historic average. Okay, that's why you see a lot of green and blue. This is well below 100, making right now the most unaffordable market ever. The record is about to get set for September when we close out here, Saturday being the last day of September. Our government probably putting us into a shutdown. That's having an impact on these rates and the wild increase we saw yesterday, of course. But we're about to close out September as the most unaffordable month in history for residential real estate. What was the previous record? It was August of 2023. So we're setting records here with these rates. And at the same time, rates are moving up. Unlike a lot of moments in history, you're seeing prices continue to push up. We talked about that yesterday with the Case-Shiller, the gold standard in housing data, where you keep seeing prices go up. Okay. Home ownership obviously is becoming tougher for many folks with these circumstances. I'm going to tell you in just a minute here who you should be targeting, because you can't target everybody. It's why I say go wide in this market. Talk to a lot of people, help a lot of people, so you can find those that aren't going to be impacted by these rates. And I'll tell you exactly where I've actually chart where you can take a look at who to target specifically, which demo in your market might make most sense for you to market to. Okay. Prices are now growing faster than wages in almost half of the US. Okay. So this is one of those things that are pushing up. The current gap where annual prices are outpacing wages include Cook County, Chicago, San Diego, California, Orange County, California, Miami-Dade, and King County, Seattle, Washington. Okay, so not only are the interest rates continuing to grow every single week, it seems like right now, we're probably going to be in a situation where we hit 8. We're certainly at a higher for longer on the rates. It's the reality that buyers need to understand. There's not going to be a white knight that comes in and saves them on rates. It's also that these home values have pushed up and even outpaced the wages. Okay. It's why you're seeing, I'd love to know in the comments, are you seeing the same in your market? You are seeing an increase in cash right now. Okay. People are deciding to buy if they can afford, they're making a decision between cash and a higher mortgage payment, and they're going cash. You're seeing that a lot. There are some markets that are considered affordable. And if you're in one of these markets, you should be pushing it front and center in your advertising. The most populous of the 121 counties, there's 121 counties where major expenses on median priced homes are still affordable for average local workers in the third quarter of 2023. Here are some of the most populous ones. Harris County, Texas, which is Houston, part of Houston. Wayne County, part of Detroit, Michigan. Philadelphia County in Pennsylvania. All right, I've been having trouble reading some of these. I'm just gonna go with this one here. If you're watching and not listening, you can see it's Cuyahoga, I believe, County in Cleveland. Jeremy Knight, shout out to Jeremy from Austin, Texas, sent me a voice text. I barely listened to these, but I said, oh, it's Jeremy. It's only 14 seconds. I will listen to the voice text. And he was correcting me on the town that I butchered yesterday, which I'm not even going to repeat. You have to go back and listen to it if you're interested. But I'm sure I butchered this one here, this Cleveland County. And there's a Pittsburgh County as well. Allegheny. I don't know. I mean, it's I've never heard of it, but I'm sure it's a very nice place, part of Pittsburgh there. So those are some of the areas where you can still get affordability. If I'm in one of those areas, I'm pushing it front and center. I'm obviously saying the county correctly. I'm articulating it in the right verbiage. Calculation with a population of at least one, or counties, I'm sorry, with a population of at least 1 million, where median prices remain down the most from third quarter 2022 to the same county this year. This is again according to ATTOM. Our Travis County, Austin, down 12%. Honolulu, down 4%. Maricopa County, Phoenix, down 3%. Clark County, Vegas, down 3%. And Sacramento County, down 2%. Okay, again, prices are in most areas growing faster than wages in half of the U.S., over half of the U.S. That is the case. Home ownership right now continues to require the largest chunk of wages along the Northeast and West Coast. Okay, so counties where major home ownership, it's a big problem when you look Northeast and you look California for affordability. It might not be as big of an issue for you in your market. That's something I'd want to advertise to everybody in my feeder markets. Okay, counties where major home ownership costs require the largest percentage of wages are concentrated Northeast, West Coast, where the top 20 are located in those two areas. Santa Cruz, 22% of annualized local wages needed to buy a single family home. That is insane. 122% of wages to go and get a single family home. Kings County, Brooklyn. Where Brooklyn at? 109.9%. Monterey County, 100.5%. Marion County, California, outside San Francisco, 100.4%. Maui, obviously, 97.3%. Aside from Santa Cruz County, those with a population of at least 1 million, where major home ownership expenses typically consume more than 28% of average local wages. Remember, the 28% number is critical because that's lending standards. 28% of wages can go towards your home. Basically, 1 week. Think about this. You really want to be, as a homeowner, 1 week of your income going towards your living, your home ownership expenses. So you got 3 other weeks to play with. We're now at that 35% level nationally. You're chewing into the second week. Okay, if you want to be a homeowner. This is why I think when all of this inventory comes online from multifamily, it's going to be very attractive for people to quit on the dream of home ownership the next couple of years and go into one of these brand new apartments that are being built. It'll be less than the mortgage rate. That's the reality. And it's the discussion and the education that needs to happen with someone who's looking for a home, with someone who's looking for shelter. Hey, you're only going to be here 2 years, you're probably going to get a better rate on renting and a lot less risk than owning. These are the things that great agents are going to advocate for their buyers. And you got to go wide to find the people who truly should buy right now. There are still people that should buy in this environment. There's life events. There's somebody who's going to be there 10 years. Why would you waste the next 5 renting? Okay. These are the people that are going to need your help moving forward. Okay, so aside from Santa Cruz, here are some of the other counties that consume more than 28%, much more than 28%. Orange County, 94.6. Queens County, 79.8%. Alameda County, Oakland, 76.8%. Nassau County, Long Island, 76.3%. Long Island is very unaffordable. Counties where the smallest portion of local wages are required to afford the median price home during the third quarter are Macomb County in Illinois. 14.2% of annualized weekly wages needed to buy a home. That's a great number. You've got Wayne County, 15.9. Peoria County, Illinois, 15.9. Montgomery County, this is outside of Pittsburgh, okay, 16.6%. So those are some of those markets where I'd be getting that information out. Annual wages of more than $75,000 are needed to afford typical home in more than half of counties analyzed, okay? Historical home affordability, worst point in 16 years. I've seen numbers where September is going to be the worst month in over a century, as well as August, beating August as that record leader. Where are the opportunities, though? Okay, because if this is what, for those that are watching, if this chart is where we're heading, and this is back when we had 6.81% on the mortgage rate. If where we're heading is over here on this yellow line, 8% rates, that means a $3,500 payment gets you less than a $500,000 home. Okay. Back when we were at 3%, you could get, for that same $3,500 payment, you could get a $750,000 home. Now you're talking about, $475,000. So you've lost $300,000 buying power for those buyers. So if this is where we're heading, you can just go down this chart right here and see quite clearly, $3,500, $3,000, $2,500 is not going to stretch as far on your monthly payment. Okay, so how much can you afford as these mortgage rates change? It's less and less and less. This is the reality. So who should agents be going wide on? Who should agents be focusing on? Empty nesters are dominating home sellers right now. The percentage of sellers based on the number of children under 18. This is NAR's profile of home buyers and sellers is the source. KCM, Keeping Current Matters, our friends over there, put together this chart. Steve Harney just tweeted it out. I actually quote tweeted Steve and said, yeah, the baby boomers are the least impacted right now by what's going on with rates. Baby boomers make up a big portion of this empty nesters. So 77% of empty nesters, based on the number of children under 18 still at home, no children still at home, those are the sellers today. You can get that data in your market and create strategies around speaking to those folks. Okay, 3 or more children, they're not moving. Okay, basically, don't market to them. Don't spend advertising dollars. Definitely don't mail anybody with 3 or more children. It's only 5% of home sellers. They're not moving. Okay, 2 children, 8% of home sellers. 1 child, 10% of home sellers. It's pretty clear who the sellers in your market are going to be in 2024. It's going to be empty nesters, people who actually just don't even have kids, or the kids have moved out of the home. Okay, so this data is so clear, and yet oftentimes, we're sending mail to a neighborhood that we'd love to have a listing in, but they're a family neighborhood. There's 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, and that neighborhood's been bought up by a bunch of people with 3, 4 kids. If it's a neighborhood now that hasn't turned over yet, and you've got a bunch of empty nesters living in these large homes, absolutely dominate that geo market. But if it's already turned over, you're talking about a 10-year run where these families are going to lock into that house, and they're probably locked up because remember, 90% of mortgaged homeowners, people with a mortgage, are under 5% on the rate. 80% are under 4% on the rate. Okay, so these are the realities here with the housing market and the unaffordability issues that we have right now. We've got to know about them so we can know who to target, know who to help, know how to articulate where the opportunities are. Glenn Kelman, the CEO of Redfin, he articulated his thoughts on the housing market yesterday on CNBC. Let's go to Glenn and see what he thinks about this current housing market.
Joining us now is Redfin CEO Glenn Kelman. Glenn, welcome back. Good to see you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So we know these high mortgage rates are wreaking havoc on the housing market. They're a disaster. How big of a disaster is it right now?
Well, it's been a slow building disaster, so I don't think it feels more apocalyptic now than it did 4 months ago. The housing market is just taking a beating because affordability is at a 4-decade low. And so at some point, we just need to catch a break from the Federal Reserve, and that doesn't seem likely to happen in 2023.
Is it having the desired effect on prices, on rents, given it's also coming up against this backdrop of super low inventories?
That is the problem. So it has certainly depressed employment in the real estate sector, but it hasn't hurt prices. Prices keep going up. Usually in a downturn like 2008, people don't want to sell, but they have to sell because foreclosure is imminent. In this case, we have had a soft landing. The rest of the economy is doing well. People are not in dire economic straits. And with a 3% mortgage, there's no way they're going to put that house on the market. So we've had a downturn in sales volume, but an upturn in prices. And that means that the sales volume crimp is just going to last a long, long time.
Yeah, we've had some in the realty business suggest that ongoing demographic trends, marriages, having kids, going to college, even dying, means that the industry will churn through some of these rate levels, which of course we coexisted with a couple decades ago. I wonder if you think that's too Goldilocks.
No, I mean, if you look at the number of existing home sales in the United States, it goes between 4 and 6 million. During the pandemic, it actually went to a 6.5 million annualized rate, nearly 7, but it's never gone below 4 since we've been tracking it. And the population is about 10% larger than the last time we hit that low, which was in 2008. So we are now at the most basic level of Maslow's hierarchy, where shelter is a human need. The only people who are moving are the ones who absolutely have to. And there are people who are relocating because they're being called back to work, or they get a divorce, or there's a death in the family. So those are the only reasons that people are moving. I wouldn't.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right there, where there are going to be transactions, right? There's 4 million right now. He said we've never dropped below that line, which is true. We are at that line. We're headed towards 8% mortgage rates, and Zillow's got some data out there that would suggest that, when we hit 8%, we may drop below 4 million for the first time. You're still going to have 3 million something if that happens in 2024. If it's 3.75 million, that's still 7.5 million sides available out there for real estate agents in particular to transact. But there's no question about it. This is, you're hearing it from every angle. This is a higher for longer market. This is the market. It's why I keep saying go wide. If you're just going deep on a few people in your database, if you want a really small business, that's one model. If you want the same level of business you've been accustomed to the last couple of years, or for it to grow, going wide on the contacts is going to be paramount, and taking every opportunity you can to do that. One thing still in everybody's favor, except for the Fed, which Glenn Kelman did mention the Fed doesn't think we're going to get any help from them. I would agree. We're not. We don't count on the Fed to help rates anytime soon, especially when they see information like today's news release. Okay, this news release is from Department of Labor. In the week ending September 23rd, the advanced figure for seasonally adjusted initial claims for jobless claims was 204,000, an increase of only 2,000. Remember, the Fed wants to see this increase because it'll help their fight against inflation. It'll make it much easier. The week's level was revised by 1,000, up from 201,000 to 202,000. The 4-week moving average was 211,000, a decrease of 6,250 from the previous week's revised average. Previous week's average was revised up 250 from 217K to 217,250. The advanced seasonally adjusted uninsured or uninsured employment rate was 1.1% for the week ending September 16th. Basically, what I'm saying here is seasonally adjusted initial claims and seasonally adjusted insured unemployment are in fact going down, not up. Okay, making the Federal Reserve's job even harder. There's many, like Logan Motoshami from Housing Wire, shout out to Housing Wire, believes that the Fed's not going to be satisfied till it breaks the labor market. So he's talking about this number getting up over 350,000 when he says breaking the number. So we're a long way away from that. That would be quite an impact on jobs. Remember, one of the ways rates comes down, one of the very few ways, long term, what I've been talking about, next couple of years, or really deep recession where they have to react, and nobody certainly wants that. Mortgage demand update for this week. According to MBA, mortgage applications decreased 1.3% from 1 week earlier. This is ending September 22nd, 2023. Mortgage rates moved to their highest levels over 20 years. We have a new high yesterday that we'll talk about here in just a second. The 30-year fixed was at 7.41 before this. It's even higher now. Highest rate since December 2000. This is all according to Joel Kahn, MBA's president and deputy chief economist. Based on the FOMC, most recent projections, rates are still expected to be higher for longer, which drove the increase in the Treasury yields. Also, I'm hearing the Treasury yields are being influenced a little bit by this government shutdown, which is coming. U.S. consumer spending rose at the weakest pace in a year last quarter. So this was also just released today from Bloomberg. This will be a helpful, point of note for the Fed. The second quarter outlays grew just 0.8%, revised down from a 1.7% pace. GDP report also showed upward revision to business investment. So half the pace is previously recorded in the second quarter, largely due to weaker spending on services. These figures were just released this morning. Of course, they can always be revised in the future, but that's where they stand today. Personal consumption, the main driver of U.S. economy, rose an annualized 0.8% from April to June. Overall GDP rose at an unrevised 2.1% rate during the period. Stronger business investment, inventories, and exports offset the slowdown in consumer spending. While consumer spending slowed in the second quarter, it's so far shown signs of resilience in the current one. Okay, so we'll see where GDP ends up in quarter three. Some of the reports have been pretty big, but do want to see, or you expect to see, a slowing economy. Nobody wants to see what Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, just recently said, which would be slowing to the point of stagflation. I don't think anybody wants to see that. Quick update on this 10-year Treasury today actually broke 4.6. So we've been talking about that 4.5 number being the number. It actually broke 4.6. It's sitting right now, 10-year Treasury at 4.667. So remember the chart a couple of hot streets ago where I said, hey, when this thing breaks 4.5, it stays up there higher for longer. And, that'll push up and get us closer to 8. as the 10-year and the 30-year are loosely tied together. So we've set a new record on the 30-year in the last 20 plus years yesterday. We've set a new record on the 10-year treasury yield for the last 15 years with this. It topped out today so far at 6.72. We're at 4.672. We're at 4.677. This 10-year right now is going to influence the 30-year again today. The 30-year yesterday on Mortgage News Daily Survey was at 7.65 and coming off of a 7.5. So you can see where that's heading. And we'll just keep an eye on things, but we won't, unfortunately, be keeping our eye on it tomorrow morning. The hot sheet is taking tomorrow's Friday off. We've been doing the free format Friday for a few weeks, and we're going to continue to do that. But we've got some new strategies for Fridays, which I'll share next week. I think this can be really engaging for all of you. And so we'll be taking tomorrow off to get that ready for the coming weeks, and we'll talk about it more next week. If you want any of the downloads from today, make sure that you are a BAMX member. Use code HOT to get 10% off of that and get the most out of everything we do at BAM by being involved in BAMX. And finally, I'll leave you with this. We're announcing something enormous today over at BAM. It hasn't gone up on social yet, but if you want a sneak peek of it, go over to nowbam.com right now and check out the top article explaining it all. Eric wrote a very beautiful piece on this announcement. So go to nowbam.com right now. Check out that announcement if you want a sneak peek before it hits social. Housing Wire, thank you guys for reporting it this morning as well. And we'll see everybody, not tomorrow, but on Monday here on the Hot Sheet. Have a great weekend. Be productive. Go wide this weekend if you're a real estate agent. The opportunities are there for you to help a lot of people, even in this current climate. Knowing the information, being able to articulate it is one of the things that actually matters on being able to help a lot of people. And we'll see you here on Monday. Until then, toodaloo.